Welcome back. I am done with my sipping of water. I am refreshed and I thank God. Where had I stopped? We were talking about forgiveness and being able to forgive people that have hurt you when you are living, especially when you are living, you're of the same household. Especially when you know that they will not be asking you for forgiveness, and you know there are people who would go to their grave and never ask for forgiveness, and you have to be able to be strong enough to forgive even when they will never ask it. Remember, like I said, forgiveness is for you. It's not for the other person. You are forgiving for you. You love for you. Your healing is going to be fast for you before it can go to everybody else. There are a lot of things that we are battling with: blood pressure, depression. I remember being depressed at some point. There are things we are dealing with that if we decided to internalize and find out what actually is ailing our souls, we will be able to find the cure for our sicknesses without even having to go to hospitals. Some of the medications we are taking, they're just suppressing. They are suppressing the symptoms. You feel like it's like taking a cough syrup and you're coughing. It only suspends the cough, but it doesn't deal with the actual disease that is happening within yourself. If you do not take an antibiotic, that is the way it works. And that is the same thing. Some of us, we are treating the symptoms, but we are not going to the root of whatever the issue is. And for me to actually even begin this show, it's because my prayer is that we would start learning to live from the inside out. Because when the inside is still in sickness, when the inside there is still a lot of death, a lot of bitterness, a lot of anger that is happening on the inside, you can be guaranteed that with time, it will show up on the outside. And some of us can see even with the way we grew up, sometimes the way our folks treated us, it's not because that is they wouldn't want to treat us better, but they were going through so much that how they treated us was how they were bringing out whatever was eating them on the outside. And most of us need to learn to start addressing keenly without even the help of anybody else. You need to start addressing keenly what is eating you up on the inside, because at time you may pretend for a little while, but after some time it will start exposing itself in one way or another. It's like someone who thinks vulgar thoughts and they are trying to speak holy thoughts. They can only pretend for some time. At some point, something will happen and something will erupt. That's why sometimes some things happen and then someone reacts in a way and you are like, the way you have reacted, it didn't warrant, whatever I did not warrant the action that you've given. And you would wonder why, but it's because there is something underlying within themselves. And of course, doctors are doctors, and maybe you're watching me and you're a doctor and I am right. Sometimes you will not tell us what we need to address because you need us coming back. You need me coming back, because you can't be selling me medicine and tell me what I can do not to take medicine. You want me to come back, so you will give me something that will kill the symptoms for some time, and then after like 6 months or so, this girl is going to come back. And that is why most of us need to take that decision of accepting, first of all, that something is wrong, of accepting that you have not been able to forgive your mother or your father or your brother because of what they did. You have to go back to accepting that every time you see this person, you get angry. By the way, the moment you start saying that I have healed, I'm no longer angry at this person, and the moment you see them, that anger erupts once more, then you are not healed yet. And that is how I tested myself. When I knew I had forgiven my uncle for molestation, there's a function that was organized, and I made sure he was present. And I knew when he comes, depending on how I will feel, then I will know whether I have actually forgiven him or not. And he came and we talked and laughed, and I remember him trying to tell me, that thing that happened when you were young, unajua, it was your fault. And I looked at him and I was like, now you devil, you are trying to come now again and trying to plant a root over something that I have already healed. Now he comes in his 30s and we are all grown up, and he's like, it was your fault that I did to you what I did. And at that moment, I had every reason to want to be angry with him. I had every reason to be malicious or to act out in a very angry way. But I looked at him in the face and I told him, I was 11, you were 21, it was your fault, and no matter how you try to make it your fault, it will not make you feel any good. It was your fault. I have forgiven you. I even told him to his face, I have forgiven you, and I forbid you from ever bringing up that topic again. Until today, he has never spoken of it again. Have we met several times? Does he call? Once in a while, he calls up to check. He hasn't called me this year, but he calls. Whenever he would call, he would call to find out how I am doing with the children. Was he doing out of guilt? I don't know. That is his cup of tea, not mine. And I refuse to partake of it. And for me, it has done me good to forgive. It has done my health good to forgive, because we need to stop over spiritualizing these things. Your body is sick because there is something that you are not addressing. Your body is sick because there is your blood pressure is high, because there is someone you think about and they aggravate you, and the emotion comes back as if they just did it and they did it 10 years ago. They raped you 10 years ago. They molested you a long time ago. But every time you think about the person, it aggravates you to the extent your pressure goes up. Your husband treats you in a certain way. You see, there's only so much you can be in control of. And the much that you're in control of is what concerns you. I am not in control of what concerns the other party. I am not in control of what concerns the other person. The best I can do is to guard what I control. And some of us need to get to that point so that we start living lives fully. Stop living your life when you are 50, when you're 60. That is when you are like, I have a few years to live. I better live them well. No, now that you're 20, that you're 30, maybe you will bump onto this video and you're a teenager. Forgive your folks. You cannot control their lives. I remember I got to a place now at that time when I was walking my journey of healing over the rape and over the molestation. In the process of taking my ARVs, I remember one time I sat down and I told myself, the way my mom and my dad have decided to live their lives, it has nothing to do with me. Because over time I had become so bitter and angry even with God and myself, because I felt they were living nasty lives, because I was this child that they thought should not have been born, because I was this child that my mother thought, you are named after so and so and it is not a good thing. You are this child. There was always something that centered with their argument around me. And I always felt really bad. And I resigned myself to the fact that until today, however they decide to live their lives, it has nothing to do with me. They are my parents. I have no control over their lives. I have tried to mend their issues over time, but I have resigned myself to the point where even when it comes to my siblings, now they are aware. They won't tell me mom did, dad did. I will not control them. They are adults. They are my parents. However they choose to, they decide to fight each other day, night, is their business. What I have control over is my life, and that is what I choose to walk by. And so some of us need to understand and reconcile with the fact that you cannot control what happens to people. You do your best as a person, and you do your best according to what you can when it comes to dealing with the things that you have to deal with to live a fruitful and a productive life, both for yourself and then for the people around you. So when I knew I had healed back to 2009, in 2009, I was now fully serving in church, not as an employee, but just serving as a child of God. And that is when this other bit of my story continues. That is where now I met a gentleman called Kevin. I was serving in the sound department. I had healed, my heart was fine. I was now in a position where I was feeling that I can accommodate someone else. I did not mind dating, my heart was fine. And maybe just to go back a bit, some of us have jumped into relationships not having fully healed from what happened previously, and it has affected the relationships that you currently have, or even marriages that you currently are in, because you jumped in before you dealt with issues of your past that were causing your relationships to be stressed. And so for me at this point, I had sat down, reconciled with the fact, and I knew if anyone else came into my life, I was in a position to handle our relationships. I never jumped into one until I knew I was ready for one emotionally. And so 2009, I met this gentleman. I was serving in the sound department. My intention was to join media, but I ended up in the sound department. So I served there for a while. We met with Kevin in 2009. We were really good friends. It was a the department was a very family. We would say we would call ourselves our family because everybody knew everyone's business. As in, if you asked me about so and so's business, I would tell you we were very neat. We were a very neat unit. We met in 2009, dated for a little while, and got married in I'm telling you, sometimes I forget. We got married in July 30th, 2020. July, was it 30th or 31st? I will tell you why I forget. But sometimes I forget. July 30th or 31st of 2010. I used to desire getting married at 24, and by that time I was 24. So we got married, I was 24, he was 25. We got married in 2010. And this part of my story is very brief. The aftermath of it is what is very long. We got married in 2010. We were blessed with 2 wonderful children. Our firstborn daughter, her name is Chevelle. She's 12 now. And our second-born son, I like saying second-born because I don't believe I am done. God is a God of many chances. Me, I love, as you see, as I told you in my previous episode, I grew up in a family of 6, and mom and dad, we were 8. Tulikuwa tumebakisha football club, just a very little, just a few. Maybe God will give me a football club, who knows? You know, I wouldn't mind having one as long as he also gives the capacity to raise the football club. But we met, we got married in 2010. Had those 2 wonderful. Second-born son is called Leon, a very wonderful boy. He has grown up to look like his father, which is quite, I look at him sometimes, yeah, it's heartbreaking, but he didn't take up after me, but it's all right. I have settled it in my heart. He does not look like me. So none of them actually looks like me. None of my kids looks like me, but I thank God for my seed. And so we met fast forward, we were only married for 3 years. That's why I said our story is very short. I don't have much to tell about it, about marriage. So I don't have stories to tell about marriage. We fought, we agreed. It was 3 years. So my stories for marriage are very limited. And most of them to be very honest, I don't remember. I don't remember most of them. Yeah, sadly, honestly, it's quite sad. I don't remember much about my married life. Yeah, I don't remember much about my married life. I remember how he looks like because I have photos and I have the children to look at every day. But I don't have memories of things that we did. Maybe we did a lot of fighting enough. I remember when actually, let me just tell you, on 1st of March 2014, he left home for work around 10 a.m. in the morning, was involved in a car accident along Garden Estate Road, on the old Garden Estate Road, around 11:10. The people that witnessed said it was 11:10. He was taken to a hospital nearby, and I managed to see him before he passed on. And today I thank God that he passed on, in the sense, if that is how God found it fit to relieve him of the pain that he was in, then I am okay with it. I have come to a place where I am okay with the decision that God took. And of course, it didn't make sense then. Death never makes sense. Death never does. One moment he was there. I remember that time our daughter was 2 years old. Our son was 2 months old. So I was a nursing mom. I was a nursing mother. You know, I remember that morning when he left, he just looked at our son. You see, like the way you just look at someone like you're going on a very big trip, on a very long trip. You know, and I was looking at him and I was wondering, so why are you staring at your son? I didn't ask him, but it's just a thought that crossed my mind, that why are you looking at your son like that? I didn't understand why he was just staring at him. He got out of the house, stood on the staircase, looked on the horizon. We lived in a very nice place that you could just see a forest. So he just looked on the horizon, and I was wondering, What is it with this person? You just, and if I remember well, I asked him, which land are you surveying? Because he just looked like someone who is surveying something. It's like when God told Abraham, look as far as you can see. That is how he was looking. And he got into the car and left. And that is how he never came back. So we got to the hospital. I got to see him in his state that he was in at that time. He couldn't recognize, he couldn't see. And I remember he just squeezed my hand, and our best couple then was already in the hospital before me. He's the one who called, held my hand. He saw how Kevin, his name was Kevin, how Kevin held my hand. He squeezed my hand, and then our best couple was like, yeah, he can't see you, but he knows who you are. And I knew he knew I was there, but he didn't stay for long. He was alive for a few hours, and then he passed away around 1:30 p.m. So he didn't really get to, he didn't get to live long. And I remember I was at the hospital that time, and I remember how my son, how my son cried at that time, and he was just 2 months old. He let out this cry that was unbelievable. I will never forget. I could not control his cry, and I knew this one. And from then on, it took a journey of him. He was this silent and quiet baby, but from that moment, my goodness, you could never control his cries. You could never control them. And I knew in his 2-month-old self, he knew something that had happened. In his 2-month self, something leaped in himself, and he knew his dad was no more in some way. I don't know, people say it's the blood, when the blood is disconnecting. I don't know how true that is, but I have seen it. I've seen it with Chevelle, and I saw it, Chevelle, I saw it at the gravesite for Leon. It was on the day Kevin died, because he's the one I was with at the hospital. I had left our daughter with our nanny, and so he passed away. So that's why I tell you, when it comes to marriage, we only married for 3 years, 8 months. So I don't really have a lot of stories to give. You know, some of you would want to give your stories. We went here, we did this. It's not an opportunity I got, and so it's not a story I can tell. It's not mine to tell. And so he passed on, and that is where this other journey begins. Remember, I'm just from a space where I have reconciled with how my past had been, and I have adjusted to now this part. I am thinking the way my parents lived is not the way I'm going to live. I had this picture of how my marriage life was going to look like. I was not going to be a copy of what I had seen at home. And so I was prepared to have a very good married life. I was prepared to make sure that my marriage works. I was prepared to make sure that I do not reciprocate who my mother was into my marriage, and of course to make sure as a wife my husband did not become what my dad was, you know. So that was the plan. I had a good plan, a very good plan. Like some of you have had a very good plan over your life until it turned upside down. So that was my plan. And of course, as you can tell, my plan did not work out for very long. And I could not now think, and I didn't even have the words to ask God. 3 years ago, I had just dealt with a whole lot of issues. And now when I thought that my life, mind you, this is our 3rd year of marriage. We did all the stages. The first stages, they say you do them in marriage. You fight the first 2 years. And then now, you have now come to an understanding of how the both of you work. Because you have never lived together. This is the time I was living with this human being. So the first 2 years, we were scratching each other because me, this is the way I've grown up. Him, he has grown up with a very loving mother. Me, I did not have that experience. So me, when his mother would come to our house, I would feel she's interrupting. Why is she coming? Yeah, so I have decided to come. Where I remember one time I packed all the things she had given me and I took them back to her house. My mother-in-law, if she gets to watch this, I hope she has forgiven this one. Let making you, oh my God. I hope some of my in-laws will not see this one. My mother-in-law, she's a very loving woman. So, the first few years, okay, not few years of marriage, because I was only married for a few anyway. So in our 2 years of marriage, our first 2 years, when I moved in, when of course I got married and moved in with my husband, his mom had bought a lot of utensils. Like, she was a Chama woman. Yeah, she was a Chama woman. So she had a lot of utensils that most of them had been moved into Kevin's house. And because at that time Kevin was living with his sister before we got married. So the sister would be in use of those things. And so at some point, his mom started coming for things one by one. Plates, you know the way I got married and I knew I was stocked. And then now here comes this wonderful woman is now coming for things, plates, cups, hot dishes, and sometimes she's not even, they are hers, so she has a right to pick them. But I have also this entitlement that this is my house. At least tell me you're coming to pick, so I know you're coming to pick. But she would just show up because we were not so far from each other, and she would come and pick those things, and I would be like, woman, what is wrong with you? This is my house. You just come and decide, today I want plates and carry plates. Today I want plates and carry plates. Tomorrow come. And she would come with a chondo. So that is how many they were. They were many. And the next thing, and she's coming, hey. And then she will come with spoons. She's coming for hot dishes. And I was thinking, at this rate, I will end up with what? The plate we use, the sufuria and the sufurias had been marked her name, her initials. So she would come and pick I spoke to, of course, my then husband, and he felt nothing. He was a mama's boy, but this one I'll be honest, because he's not here, so he won't he won't fight me for it. So he was a mama's boy. So he was the only son of his mother. And so when I told him, I don't like the way things are going, he never addressed the issue. So one point I got so angry when he went to work, I called a pickup. I remember I had this huge wall unit that was there, and it was the one that was housing all the utensils that I found that were now hers, not mine. And I remember when I got married, she told me, everything that you find in that house is yours. So I was wondering, okay, when did they stop becoming mine? And now they are not even ours, they are yours, And I was very angry. I packed up, I got a pickup, and our gate was locked. We couldn't get the caretaker to open it, and I told the guys that were with the pickup, whatever you do, put pandisha juu, whatever you do, I want this thing out, and I want it out now. However you people do it, put, pack it on the pickup from on top of the fence, on top of the gate, whatever you need to do, get it out of my house. And that is how it landed back into her house. Oh my God, Lord have mercy. Some of you are having issues with your mother-in-laws, you're laughing and you're like, I should do that. Please don't do that. It's very disrespectful. It's very disrespectful. Don't do that. So I packed up everything, and I didn't even tell her. See, even her, she was never telling me she's coming for her stuff. So this time I'm just doing her a favor. I'm delivering them. That was me. So when I tell you I was not an easy person, I was not. So I delivered those things into her house, and she called my husband then. And he called, and my husband called me, and I told and tried to lecture me, and I told him, this one you do not lecture. Yeah, I told you to warn your mother, and I did not like how she has been coming for things. You did not address the matter, so I addressed it the way I knew how to address it. Do you have a problem? And she was like, no, at least you should have told. Of course, you should have told me that you are taking the things. I did not tell you, and now you know I have taken the things. Yeah, so I was hot. I'm telling you, I was fire. I was fire. I took the things back. I took the wall unit back. I packed up everything else that had her name with it. My mother-in-law, forgive me. The next mother-in-law, I would do better. So I delivered because I felt, And I will tell you, actually, let me tell you where this was building up from before you start throwing stones. When we got married, see, I say this is my story, so I will tell my story. When we got married, like I have told you, I have had this sense of royalty. So there is a certain lifestyle that honestly, I do not agree to live. There is going low, and there is the low. I tell God I can only go this low. After here, this one no, yeah, here no. So I have always had that knowing in myself of what I want, and somehow I go for it whenever I can. So when we got married, he used to live in a 2-roomed house, but with a bathroom and a toilet inside. And I told him, me 2 rooms don't work for me. Yeah, I cannot live in a 2-roomed house. We cannot. And he was okay. So he was like, no, we are not living at least we should live in a 1-bedroom house, at least. So we moved. Of course I was his wife. So we listened and we moved to a 1-bedroomed house, a very nice 1-bedroomed house, not far from where we were living. And then one day, now you will see why I was angry, and you will agree with me. One day I go to town, I come back and the house is empty. The house is empty. So I call him, what happened? Our house is empty. Until we moved. We moved. We moved. Hey, where? Hey, we moved. I asked him, we moved. Where did we move to? Until we went back to the 2-roomed house we were living. Where? Until we went back to the 2-roomed house we were living in. I could not believe it. Oh my God, it was like a dream. I could not believe it. Until we went back to the 2-roomed house. I was like, which one? To the one I was living in before I married. Me with myself. Of course, I was not laughing. I was flaming. I was on fire. Not for Jesus, but I was on fire. I'm telling you, I went into that house fully arranged, like we had never moved out. So I asked him. When I left my house in the morning, I even cleaned dishes, cleaned the house. I left everything intact. Who helped you pack? And who came and unpacked? My mother and my sister. Now you see why I was angry. My mother and my sister. They are the ones who came and unpacked. Okay. Came, packed, went. We didn't even have money. They paid for that house. Yeah, they called me and told me the house is vacant and they have paid. They came with a car, packed our things, went and unpacked. I could not believe it. I hated them from that moment. Let me be very honest. I hated them from that moment. How do you come into someone's house who has a wife and treat him like a bachelor and pack things and unpack things and take them into that house because you think the wife made a wrong choice? Yeah, that you should not have moved into a 1-bedroomed house. Why is she giving you pressure to pay rent? Some of you married women are standing up looking at me because you know I am right. The woman, you're pressuring my son. He cannot afford to pay a 1-bedroomed house. You are very expensive. You are a very expensive woman. You married this expensive woman. I was angry. I know I cannot. But I was very angry. I could not believe they came and packed and unpacked and moved us to a small house. At least they should have taken us to a different one. The same one that he was a bachelor in is the same house he took us in. And so we stayed. After I had calmed down, we stayed. God have mercy. We stayed in that house for a very long time. He refused to move. He's like, no, you are very expensive. I cannot move to a one-bedroom house. This is the one I can afford. Mom says I can afford this one. So Mom said, Mama's boy, we stayed. Woo. That is where we had our firstborn daughter. After we had the baby, he refused to move. It's like the baby is small, she doesn't need a lot of space. So we stayed. Woo. We stayed in that house. Eventually, I got angry. He gave me money for rent. I did not pay for the house. I went to pay for another house. I went, just next to ours was a 2-bedroomed house. I had been trying to speak to him, you know, like the way people come, move out, and I've been telling him, okay, it's empty now, can we go? He's like, no, not now, it's not a good time. Like the way some of your people are telling you it's not a good time, and it would be, someone would move in. Eventually, to quicken the story, he decided, he gave me money for rent, and I told him, I've not paid rent, I've paid deposit for this other house, and I have moved. Yeah, even me, I have moved. So we are moving. Yeah, so he didn't have an option. Those are my 3 years of life. Now, what stories of marriage am I supposed to tell you? Yeah, they have good ones. Those are my stories. So that was my marriage for 3 years. So by the time he was passing away, that was now supposed to be our 4th year, we had sat down that January and we had agreed we are not fighting anymore. I know how you like things. You know how I like things. We are grown-up people. We have 2 children now. We have to start thinking ahead. And we had, honestly, I don't remember, he died in March. I don't remember us fighting for those 3 months. He died on the 1st of March, so it's actually just January and February. So I don't remember us fighting for those 2 months. I don't know whether it was God who was preparing to go home holy. I don't know. What do you think? Maybe you can leave it on the comment there. I don't know. Maybe it was, we never fought. January and February, we never fought until now he rested and went home to be with the Lord. And my journey began. I know you are wondering how it happened with my in-laws. We sadly don't have a very close, we are not very neat. It's a sad story. And for me, I think it's because, like I said, I am not one who can be forced to do things. I will not do things to make you happy when I know they are not working for our good, and especially when I know they are outside the will of God. When we got married, we were both serving in JCC in the sound department, and of course at this point I had started to become very serious with Christ. My relationship with God had progressed. I knew the ways of the kingdom. I knew what is right and what is wrong. And at some point, I knew I'm not doing things to step out of God. And I remember before we got married in 2009, I remember the Lord clearly speaking to me of a message that our late bishop preached. He preached a message on the land, the place, and the promise. And he was speaking of how the promise is attached to the land that you have. Your promise is attached to the land that God has called you to the place and the land that God has called you to. Because some of us, as we can see, you're in Kenya. That's the land. But there is the place that you have been ordained to serve in, and that maybe some of you, that is where you're serving. For me, I'm sitting right now, I'm in my assignment. So it depends with the place that the Lord had called you. And when he talked about the promise, there are promises that are attached to you being in the right place, doing what you're supposed to be doing, and in the land that the Lord had called you to be in. And for me, at that point, it was very clear to me. The Lord spoke very clearly, and I knew Africa was my place of dominion. It still is my place of dominion. That's why for me, I am very hesitant to take opportunities that will take me outside of my territory of dominion, because either there are those ones that I know are distractions, and there are those ones I know they are just the enemy trying to transplant me from where the Lord has planted me. And because I have grown in wisdom in Christ, I do not allow it, no matter how hard it becomes. And some of us maybe need to learn that no matter how tough things get, they do not give you enough reason for you to step outside of the will of God, especially when you know what that will is. You will never have peace when you get outside of the will of God if you are truly choosing to live for Christ. If those who have chosen to just be outside of the will of God, they are those ones who are okay with it because their heart is not for the kingdom of God. But for someone like me, I knew my heart is for the kingdom of God and to fulfill the will of my Father, my Heavenly Father, that is. I have had a very hard time trying to accept anything that is taking me out of that. And to some extent, that is what has really stretched my relationships with my in-laws. I do not judge them because they do not understand my walk with Christ. And I don't judge them because I know I have never explained to them the main reasons as to why I do not accept some of the opportunities they have given me. And I have been termed foolish because of not accepting them, but nonetheless, I choose to follow Christ. Yeah, that is my stand. If who I'm following is Christ, the outside is really irrelevant in the sense that he's the one that I long to please more. And so we buried him, and life continued. Life had to continue, and that means I had to face the reality that I no longer had a husband. I had to be comfortable with sitting with people knowing that they will be talking about their husbands, and I have no story to tell. I have no story to tell when people start saying my husband this, my husband that, and I have no stories to tell for two good reasons. One, of course, the main obvious one is that he died, and the second obvious reason is that I was not married for that long for me to have stories to tell. You see, for someone who your husband has passed away at, maybe you've been married for 30, 40 years, you have stories to tell. You can sit with people who are saying my husband this, my husband that, and you have stories to tell. Me up to this date, I have no stories to tell. Like even now that my heart has healed and I'm 100% okay, I have no stories to tell. I can't sit with people who say my husband, and even me, I will be like, my husband used to. Me, I don't have those ones. I don't have those stories. And so I had to adjust to knowing that I do not have a husband to, and I also had to come to the knowledge of the fact that I have these two small babies that I have to start dealing with, start handling. And mind you, I was not working. I was a single, husbandless, workless human being. It was a tough time. It was a really tough time. So dealing with the loss of my husband. Some of you may ask, so how did you deal with it? I know you're looking at me and glaring and you're like, so how did you deal with it? It's been 10 years. It's been 10 years and a few months. And I can tell you for sure, the journey of dealing with the loss of a husband, if you're not intentional about it, it will kill you. If you're not intentional about it, it may not kill you. I have known people that have died physically because they could not handle the death of their husbands or their wives. I have known people that years down the line, when I was about 2 years into the loss of Kevin, please forgive me, I don't call him my husband anymore because he is not. Even the Bible says when we did our vows, it was until death do us part. From that moment, he stopped being my husband. And I speak that now because I have healed. For someone who is fresh in the loss of your husband, you may not understand what I am saying, and I mean no disrespect. And you may think that I am not being careful with my language or with my structuring of phrases, but it is true. He no longer is my husband. The Bible says that God is the husband to the widow. So the moment Kevin transitioned into glory, God took that place. I can never refer to Kevin as my husband. And that is my revelation. You don't have to take it if you don't want to. It's my revelation. And so when Kevin passed away, we buried him. And I think when you bury someone and people go back into their business, that's when it hits you that the person is actually dead. Yeah, because when people are, and this time for me it would be for a husband, for you it may be for someone else. It could be your brother, it could be your mom, your dad, your sibling, someone that you held dear to you. excuse me, to some of you it could even be your children, you know. And when people go back into their lives, into who they are and to who they are on a daily basis in their own space, that is when now it hits you that, yeah, actually this person is gone. And I remember I couldn't stay in the same house we were staying in. I had to move out. I could not be looking at the things that we had. I'm telling you, as soon as we buried him, a week later, I was refurbishing my furniture. I could not imagine sitting on my maroon seat. It was maroon. I could not imagine sitting on the maroon seat he was sitting on while it was looking maroon. You know, I felt like leaving things as they were when he died will make grieving very hard for me, because I will be thinking he's still there. And I remember our 2-year-old during the funeral, Chevelle, she let out this cry when the dad was being dropped down into the grave, and she was wearing this nice white dress, but you could not hold her. Nobody could hold her. I tried. She had the strength of a lion at that point. Nobody. Everybody tried to hold her. Nobody. And she was 2 years old. No one could hold her. Eventually, we all let her and gave her room to walk around, jump, cry, roll. Nobody. I was just watching her. And you can imagine what that did to me as a mom. I was just looking at her and I couldn't help. You know, and that's a tough place. I couldn't help her. I was just watching her scream. Until today, I have never forgotten the sight. I have never forgotten the sight of her cry. And she was just there. Oh my goodness. You could not hold her. No one, no matter how strong you, nobody, male or female, no one could contain her. And people just cleared the space for her as she started screaming, and they blocked the bit where she was standing overlooking the casket going down. And they blocked her just to make sure that she did not fall in. And I remember, I didn't even notice how fast the casket went down, because I could not look at the casket. I was just looking at this little girl that did not know what was going on, you know, but to some extent felt what was going on. She couldn't tell, but she felt it. And she screamed and cried and jumped and wailed until the casket hit the ground. The moment it hit the ground, bah, she went quiet, completely quiet, completely quiet. She did not talk to anyone. She did not laugh. She just walked slowly and came to where I was and just lied on my laps, and she just went quiet. And I knew where. Yeah, I don't think children don't mourn. They mourn. Children mourn. Children mourn. And I remember, I have never forgotten, and thank God we did not take videos. I refused for videos. It's not a video I would want to watch, neither. We didn't even take photos. They are not photos I think they took photos and I refused. I told the photographer to not send me even one. Until today, I have no interest of the photos they took. If anyone took videos, I don't know if they did. I have no interest in the videos, you know. And that girl mourned. That girl loved her father. And I remember after that, when we went back into the house, the dad had the dad's friend had a car that was a Subaru, which is the one he had an accident with. And the daughter knew every time he didn't come with the car that he had, he came home with a Subaru. When she heard the sound of the Subaru at the gate, she knew dad was home. So most of the time she would run and stand at the door waiting for him to open. So I don't know, when he passed away, someone near us bought a Subaru. Just around the neighborhood, they bought a Subaru. So she would hear a Subaru on the road, and she would go stand at the gate and at the door waiting for daddy to come home. And I knew, like, apana, this one I cannot handle. This one I will not be able to handle. Actually, this happened in the season before the funeral. And by the time we were burying Kevin, I knew I needed to move. Yeah, I needed to move. There was no way I was going to have her stand at the door every time she hears the sound of a Subaru thinking daddy's coming home. And so we moved, refurbished everything, gave out everything. My in-laws are not in the country. So when they were going back, my sister-in-law asked for some things that were his brother's, like she wanted his favorite sweater. We both knew what his favorite sweater was. And she was like, "You're giving out his clothes?" Yeah, I gave them out to someone in church and told them to give them far. I didn't want to don't give them to anyone in church, just give them to some people very, very far from church. And she told me, "If you're giving them out, give me something that belongs, give me his favorite sweater." And so I hope she still has it. I haven't seen her quite a number of years. And so we moved out and started healing. We started the journey of healing from there. I had to heal from losing a husband, from losing a friend. I had to watch my kids heal from the loss of their dad. And it's hard when you have to watch your children, especially at a tender age, deal with the loss of their husband when you cannot speak to them and they cannot speak to you back about the emotions they are going through. How do you ask a 2-month-old, "How are you feeling?" How can a 2-year-old explain how she's feeling? At least when the kids are older, if you have a good rapport with them and you're a parent, you can sit down as a family and they will tell you, "This is the space I am in right now because mom or dad or my sister and brother died. This is the space I am in." But for my kids, they were tiny. I had to ask God to teach me on how to watch them heal, and it was tough. We continue this on our next episode. Please stay tuned. I will be sharing more on how the journey began of healing from that point to where we are now, that our daughter is now 12, our son is 10 years old. I am the age that I am, and God has been good and kind. Yes, 10 years down the line, I will be able to tell you what happened and what did not happen. Thank you for watching. This is the Living Free Show. I have been your host, Diana Gathoni.
Watch part 5 of this remarkable testimony only on the next episode of Living Free with Diana.